Nobody asked me how much it costs or how long it takes to get there. They just ask, where do I book? We all need that connection with nature. We all need that disconnection from the noise and the things that are unimportant that, honestly, usually are the majority of our day-to-day life. And we just need to connect with ourselves.
You're now listening to a new episode of Gratitude Through Hard Times. Gratitude instills humility. Gratitude removes the ego. Gratitude helps empower the best in others around you. Our goal is to guide individuals and companies to practice gratitude so you can live a longer, happier, and more successful life. Get ahead of life with connection and purpose. This is Gratitude Through Hard Times with Schembra.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Gratitude Through Hard Times. It's your host, Schembra, and if I sound different today, it's because I'm on the road down at the beach, enjoying a little fun in the sun before a busy fall begins. I know my audio sounds a little off, but nonetheless, we're still here to bring you the goods. I want to welcome you to another fantastic episode that I think you're going to get a tremendous out of. If you're loyal to this partner, or if you're loyal to this podcast, it's good to see you, old friend. Some of my favorite moments throughout the week are when you email your thoughts, your comments, your questions of today's episode guests. So keep those coming. Your support has meant the world. To all the new listeners, I welcome you with open arms. I don't know how you stumbled upon our humble little corner of the internet, but I'm glad you're here. Maybe somebody sent you this episode as a invitation to live fuller, connect deeper. They see something in you that needs to be brought out to our world. And if you're yearning to live a more full life, you've stumbled into the right place. I'm going to invite you to click that subscribe button by the end of this podcast and join us along for this journey. Take a look back through the podcast episode archives and you'll see our close to 10-year commitment bringing on great folks like today's guest just to share their human story on how they're doing good for our world. Now today, I truly believe is going to be a special episode because I couldn't have more in common with today's guest. We're going to be talking about technology, presence, awe, hospitality, nature, and our guest's lifetime commitment to help humans flourish. Today, we're bringing on Nick Peluffo, who's the CEO of a wonderful adventure travel company called Awasi. He's only 14 months into this role, but he comes from a lifetime in hospitality and luxury nature-based lodges. He has a beautiful group of outdoor nature lodges scattered across South America. And they are the leader in the category of helping you arrive, disconnect, have a fully customized experience, be met with the ultimate premium hospitality, and be in awe of nature around you. It's truly life-changing work that they take a lot of really great people on, and we're going to talk about that today. Not necessarily a podcast about go-to-market strategy or raising venture funding, so if you're in source of that, tune out. If you want to listen to two guys talking about the importance of meaningful moments of human connection through hospitality and the great outdoors, you've stumbled to the right podcast. So without further ado, let's welcome Nick to the podcast. Great to have you.
Thanks, Chris. Pleasure to be here.
It's an exciting time in your world, and I think your industry and what y'all do will be one of the most important ways of keeping humans human in the years to come. So I can't wait to dive into that in a sec. But we always have to start off our podcast with a very simple question. This is a gratitude question to get us out of our head and into our hearts. Now, Nick, we've been asking this question, just for context, since July 15th, 2015. We had a little bowl of pasta sauce. We decided to feed it to people to see if it was even good or not, and I hosted a dinner party. And at that dinner party, we worked together to create the meal. We served each other. We had a shared group experience. And at 7:47 p.m. on that very first evening, I paused all dinner table conversation and I asked this very simple question. We went around the table, we each shared, people came alive. And I've devoted my life to that feeling ever since. And so to kick off our podcast, I want to ask you this simple gratitude question. Nick, if you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to, or that you've never thought to thank, who would that be?
My wife. I thank her all the time, but it's never enough. So we are very different human beings, and somehow that works perfectly. We balance each other out, and I think a lot of what I was able to do and achieve in life, at least the things that matter the most, are all thanks to her.
When you say, I don't thank her enough, how do you measure that feeling of expression? What about you says you're not doing enough?
I think it's twofold. One is in relation to the importance of her contribution, right? It means everything to me, right? Everything. So it's impossible to be thankful enough for that, right? It's just an infinite number. And B, I'm a human being like everyone else, although I can't speak for others. I, make mistakes all the time. I sometimes tune out and forget. I'm not always on my best mindset. So I wish, right? I'm always trying to improve. And I wish I was always present for her and always thankful to her and always fair to her. I try my best, but yeah.
What's your wife's name?
Christiane.
Cheers to Chris. I want to get back to contribution that you said later in the podcast. We're going to connect that to the outside world. And we're going to get back to tune out, forget, and not always in my best mindset in a few minutes. So Nick, if you could paint a picture for our listeners about Awasi in just a few short minutes, how would you describe it? Heck, how would you describe it to a 5-year-old if you could? I've never asked this question on a podcast, but for our listeners, how would you describe the unique beauty that Awasi is for our world?
So Awasi is a collection of 5 remote, semi-remote lodges that are rooted in nature, destination, culture. So the reason why you would come to our properties is not because our villas, our beds, our service, our food are outstanding. They are. But that's not a reason for you to leave your home in London, Paris, New York, LA, whatever you may live, and take 1, 2, 3, 4 flights, across the world. You come to experience something unique, right? To be in awe. And that's the reason that makes you get there, right? So you see Torres del Paine, and maybe you're hoping for an encounter with a puma, or maybe you want to, be in a moon-like environment like the Atacama Desert, or you want to visit one of the 7 natural wonders of the world and see the Iguazu Falls, or maybe you want to see humpback whales in Santa Catarina, and etc. That might be your original reason to go, but the experience you live there is really connecting with yourself, connecting with nature, connecting with what's essential. right? So it's a different kind of travel. Within our group and our teams, we usually talk about us not being a hotel company per se, but being an experience company, right? So our whole goal is how do we create meaningful experiences? Those experiences are usually come to life through the explorations. It so happens that people need a place to sleep and to eat and etc. That's where kind of like the normal hospitality part of it comes into place. But we spend way more time thinking about, excursions and cars and guides and what are people doing, what are they seeing, how are they feeling, how we can create something different. So if I could, encapsulate that into something small, Awasi in Quechua means home. A normal hospitality company says, we're your home away from home. That's not how we approach it. The way we approach it is this is your best friend's home. You happen to have a very wealthy friend that lives in, one of these awesome, super remote destinations. And that friend of yours knows you better than anyone, but also that friend of yours, because they live there, they know that destination better than anyone else on earth, right? They know every nook and cranny. They know every special place, the special time, the owner of a estancia that will open up only for him or her or you. So in essence, the experience you're going to get is unlike any other, right? Because we will get to know, because of the scale and the way we approach things, we'll get to know you better than anyone. We know the destination better than anyone. And we will combine those to make an unique experience just for you. I mean, think about it from a human perspective. There's 8 billion of us. We're all different. Doesn't matter all the, the buckets and tags and lists, etc., that people try to create to make it, to simplify it. We're all different. We approach travel the same way, right? It's your pace, your space, meaning we'll do that for you, right? One villa, one guide, one truck.
Hyper customized.
Hyper customized.
Nick, it's beautiful what y'all have built. First of all, Nick is about 14 months into the role. You joined as CEO back in 2025, but Nick has over 2 decades of experience running experiences like this in his properties that then he sold into Awasi and, became CEO of Awasi. I love that the words you use: home, friend, experience, emotional. These are not the typical words you think when maybe some of our listeners are dreaming up a place to travel to. And what I love on your website is that you say our Awasi experiences are a place for people to disappear.
Uh-huh.
And so one of my first questions is, in a world where maybe our listeners are always on, they're always seen, they're always out there, they're always in control, they're always the ones making decisions, they're always the one that people need things from, how important is that type of disappearing anonymity to have a piece of the world where nobody knows you, where you don't have to let other people know you're there? What is that form of almost being ignored by the world? Tell me about the well-being benefits of that. Because most people travel in order to take the photo, in order to post the thing. But you're kind of doing the opposite. You're giving a place for people to disappear.
There's so much in that, right? I'll try to organize my thoughts around that. I think my favorite book is Essentialism, and I do a very poor job of living by that, but I try nonetheless. And I think in our daily lives, we're hit by way too many distractions, right? Noise, people, email, WhatsApp, text, and so on and so forth. And that makes it increasingly difficult for anyone to be, to be human, to focus on our feelings, on our state of mind, on our health, and on each other. And I think what we try to do with our trips is provide the correct setting for that to flourish again, right? So it's pretty interesting when I start describing Patagonia, for example, right? The last hour of your trip going into the property, you've already lost cell phone signal, right? And so you took a flight to Santiago, you took another flight down to Punta Arenas, you took a car, right? The guy picked you up at the airport, put you in the truck, and then you start driving. At some point, you lose cell phone connection, and then at some point, you hit a dirt road, and then you open, the ranch's gate, and then there's another 30 kilometers of dirt road, and once you cross the farm, you start going up a mountain, and you go into the woods, and then you get into the lodge, and you're like, where am I? And then you open the door, and then you're like right in front of the Torres del Paine, right in front of the mountains. And you realize that you're completely off the grid, right? There's none of the public utilities and the normal services are present. And if we weren't there, there would be nothing else, right? There's absolutely nothing around. Everywhere your sight gets to, which is pretty far. You're not going to see a car, you're not going to see a house, you're not going to see another human being, right? You see animals and you see nature. And when I describe that to people is just, nobody asked me how much it costs or how long it takes to get there. They just ask, where do I book? Right. And the lesson I take from that is we all need that connection with nature. We all need that disconnection from the noise and the things that are unimportant that, honestly, usually are the majority of our day-to-day life. And we just need to connect with ourselves. Right. So we try to create the conditions for that. So I think where we excel at is unstaged experiences, unscripted experiences, something that is really authentic. And by doing that and interacting directly with the environment, right, whether it's the landscape or the wildlife, you're going to be horseback riding, you're going to be trekking, you're going to be doing all kinds of different activities, scuba diving, etc. You naturally release endorphins. And that's what we were built to do. We're not built to be in a seat, in a sofa, definitely not in a shopping mall, right? So I think those are the kind of experiences that we really want and that we really need beyond that. So, yeah, that's, I think, how we go about it.
It's the words you used are absolutely amazing about becoming unreachable, about being unstaged, unscripted. One of your brand philosophies is that time and space are the greatest of privileges. See, we live in a world that rushes through the moment. We live in a world that packs our calendar so full of things to do that we never actually have time to think. We live in a world where we're constantly learning new things, acquiring new knowledge. But when you do too much of that, you hide away from the thing that makes you the most unique and genius. And those are the thoughts and the feelings that you have inside of you that are a collection of your life's experiences. And so you're giving, from an innovation and creativity perspective for all the CEOs on this call, you're giving people time to pause, become unreachable, so that the genius thoughts can have time to catch up. For all you CEOs out there that have really pursued becoming efficient, optimized, and outsourced, you're trying to get all this new technology adoption. It's actually dumbing a lot of your processes and systems down into mediocrity. Genius has to come from the human. And so I do believe that part of the great benefit of you bringing people to this place to give them time and space is to let the good thoughts catch up. And I bet some people have had a $20 million idea in an hour of sitting in front of a piece of nature, right? Newton's law of gravity, it took him 40 years of work to have one apple hit him out of a tree to connect the dots. Folks, you can find your Newton's law of gravity in the great outdoors. That was talking about the presence. That was talking about disconnecting slowing down, becoming unreachable, creating space for cognition. Well, there's another thing that you've hinted at when talking about nature. There's actual studies that have found that 20 minutes in nature actually creates 21.3% reduction in cortisol. Being in nature has mental health benefits. It leads to increased resilience. Dasher Keltner's research found lower inflammation, reduced risk of depression, reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, all these kind of great things from being in nature. Now, when I think of nature, I think of a word you used earlier called awe, A-W-E. Awe is what happens. I'll let you describe, the silence stretches wide, the skies feel, and I'll let you use those words. But awe is the idea of remembering you're not the biggest thing in this universe. There are things bigger than you. Maybe it's nature, it's a community, it's a God of our own understanding, whatever. And I think why that's important, awe, is that people are walking around the world with big egos right now. You get a like on social media, it inflates your ego. You work with AI and they say, Nick, you're a genius. That's a great idea. It inflates your ego. Awe, according to recent studies, actually helps you tap into the small self and inspires a greater sense of pro-social behavior and generosity. So tell me about how Atacama, Patagonia inspire a sense of awe in a human being, in a small human being with a big ego.
I'm not sure if I'm qualified to respond to that. I'll give you my personal perspective.
It's perfect.
It's different. And I think this goes a lot about our thesis, right? Exogenous versus endogenous, right? So if you're going to one of these amazing places, right? You're going to Mendoza and you're concerned about visiting the most well-known winery and taking an Instagram shot because you're concerned how many people are going to like it, then it's likely going to be an experience that it's more of a transaction, and it's going to be nice, right? You're going to feel the numbness of the moment and whatever that generates in the short term. But the real benefits of it in the moment, and especially long term, are probably going to go away because it's another transaction. If you allow yourself to disconnect from, again, all the distractions, to connect with the moment, connect with what's going on. So let's staying in that same example, right? That same property in Mendoza. You go and visit a family who's been there for 3 generations. You visit their home. They sit down on a wooden table outside in front of their homes under a tree. They open their best wines and they start telling you their story about their families, right? Their granddad when they immigrated from Europe and all the hardships and this and that. What you're going to be feeling in that moment, right? The level of presence that you're going to get, because you're not, it doesn't even cross your mind to check your phone, to see what's going on, how the markets are doing, if someone in your team is having an issue or whatnot. You're absolutely in the moment. And you're connected to them as human beings, to their story, to what happened to them. Of course, you're naturally, relating to your own story and your own family. And that's going to allow you to be in awe of what's going on, right? It could be nature, it could be a human being, it could be just that situation. And again, we try to create the conditions for that to happen naturally. And so I think it's all about, it's a little bit like architecture, right? For me, I love architecture when you're using natural elements. I dislike any artificial elements. And we try to do that in everything we do. Like, for example, as a business, we use state-of-the-art, fully integrated, the best of the best technology on the back office. If you're a guest, you'll never see a screen. You're never going to see any electricity, nothing, right? So you're going to see the most raw, manual, humane interactions, right? There's never a technology between you and the other person. Again, all of these and a long list of other features are to create these this natural settings where you connect with yourself. You have an endogenous incentive to be in awe. I'm not sure if that's what you asked, but that's how I interpreted it.
Nick, it was phenomenal. There's a writer, a photographer writer, Susan Sontag, who once said that to take a photo of something is to appropriate that thing you're taking a photo of.
That's deep.
Goodhart's law states that when the metric becomes the measure, the actual thing ceases to become important. So when people come to take the photograph, to get the like, the actual journey becomes, and the people that you're with, that you're photographing, tell me what was deep about that, or what you reacted to that.
I think it's deep because I've been those two different people or persons. I've been to the same place with a different mindset and with a different attitude. And again, just going back to the example I gave before, right? So let's say I'm going to a specific place in, I don't know, in Atacama, right? And I'm there to take a shot for my Instagram account. And I'm thinking, oh, I should post this. My friends, they're going to be so jealous. It's going to be nice. My family, they're going to be so happy that I'm here. I'm so proud. This is really cool. This is beautiful. The lights are amazing. This crazy blue sky and all these colors, the sulfur, etc., yellow. Anyway, you were thinking about that, but you completely lose perspective of the details and of what's actually in front of you. Right. So it becomes a picture. Whereas once you're done with that, right, and you change your mindset and you actually pay attention, you actually start talking to your guide and he or she starts telling you why that landscape is the way it is. Look at the little details, like you go into the rocks and you look around you and et cetera, et cetera. That is such a different experience. Right. So again, I think the appropriating yourself from the picture is very appropriate.
It's what you just described about a photo, a photo being this 2D, non-specific interpretation of a memory. But the photo doesn't have the smell, it doesn't have the detail, it doesn't have the micro nuances. What your guides, and we'll talk about them in a sec, what your guides have done so well is invited someone to go 2 layers beneath the surface and ask why. And I think that's missing in today's day and age. I feel like we have removed people's ability and yearning to go deep on something because we try to scale wide. We live in a multitasking, get information from everywhere, be everywhere at once. But Seneca, a great Roman Stoic, once said, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. And you're helping people go from being everywhere into being deep right there. And I think what's so cool is that you're helping people that typically react to market conditions, investor updates, product launches, etc. You're helping them go from short-term reactive to thinking in long terms by hearing the resilient stories of 3-generation families they get to meet. And I think that's a wonderful expansion of time. I think it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to start a little bit, touching as we start rounding the corner. At the end of the day, you're a hospitality company, or you're an experiences company, but hospitality is the thing. Hospitality, I believe, is the need for hospitality is rising. So, the World Economic Forum stated that the skills to help you thrive tomorrow are things like empathy and active listening, leadership and social influence, proactive resilience, learning agility, etc. But the ability to serve others are these growing skills. Now, just 2 weeks ago, Hilton, big hotel group, not experiences group, but a hotel group, Hilton, put out their hospitality blueprint on leadership of tomorrow. And the fourth pillar of their big blueprint was called Become the Chief Host Officer. Okay? This is a leadership thing that they're teaching the companies and their internal, couple 100,000 staff. So my question to you is, knowing that Awasi comes from the Quechua word house, knowing that your guides are essentially your friends hosting you in their fancy homes, how do you go out and look for or promote from within human beings who exemplify the role of a good host, a good guide, a good abundant grandma welcoming you into their Italian kitchen or Patagonian kitchen? How do you look for that human? Because I know a lot of the CEOs that are listening to this probably hear me talk about the importance of being the chief host officer and hiring for hospitality, but I don't know the right words to say because I've never hired some of those people. How do you look for that?
Well, it starts from the beginning, right? So for who and what and how we look for them. But even if you go a step behind, I think hospitality is unlike any other customer experience, right? I don't think any other business or industry activity has the same level of vulnerability and surrender both ways, right? So our guests sleep with us, they eat with us, they cry with us, they laugh with us, they bring their families, they live some of the most important, memorable times of their lives with us. We happen, and this is just not us, right? This is us as in the industry. We end up learning an absurd amount of information about our guests' lives, and to be, good stewards of the importance of that information, that experience, that moment, right? Because for some people get the privilege of traveling all the time, and dime a dozen. For some people, this is a once in a lifetime experience. We treat every single trip as a once in a lifetime experience, and again, I think this goes across the board. So the first thing we do is try to find someone who has the natural inclination for something like this, right? So if you're looking to work in hospitality, you already know, right? It's going to be tough, right? This is not investment banking. This is not tech. This is not engineering, construction. This is a different thing, right? This is humans with humans. This is working weekends, working late shifts, working on the holidays, having a level of commitment and dedication that is very, very high. So I think the whole process of recruiting is 100% in that direction. Then hiring, then onboarding, then training, retention, incentivizing, helping people grow and flourish in whatever interests and skills they have is always with that, right? So what are we trying to achieve? Who do we need? What kind of attitudes we need, right? So when looking for attitude versus aptitude, we always, attitude always prevails, because it's very difficult to teach someone to smile, right? But it's pretty easy to teach someone to use Excel or to, cook or something. But they have to have the right attitude. They have to have the desire, that fire in their belly to do that. They have to have, the right energy, right? Everything we do and we feel is energy. And, it's, I think, a very, very small example of that is we always tell everyone who has access to a phone that when they pick up the phone, they pick up the phone smiling. And someone outside the industry or who's starting the industry will say, why should I smile? Nobody's looking at me. There is no camera. It's like you can feel if someone is smiling. Like your interaction, the energy you're transmitting is 100% different. So smile, not because you were told to smile. Smile because this is what you were meant to do. Smile because this is what you wanted to do. And if this is not what you want to do, then this industry is not for you. Right. So I think we try to set course from the beginning, hiring the right people. Right. And we are constantly in this effort. So this is the people business. Right. It's high touch, high maintenance. Everything else is, kind of trying to generate infrastructure for it. But people are really what create the experience. Right. Our business is, I wouldn't say 100% people, but a very, very, very large percentage is people.
Mm-hmm. You just said so many things I have more questions about. Energy, attitude, smiling. I'm going to put a bookmark in surrender. Actually, I'm not going to put a bookmark. My friend Karina, she produces surrender sessions, surrender experiences. And her work is one-on-one. Your work is group work. What's so cool about that link is, Karina says that surrender creates the conditions for flourishing. She says people stop over-controlling, they slow down, they drop the ego, and they reconnect to their body in wider awareness. And, a lot of the people that come to you get stuck in their heads and disconnected from their bodies. And, her sessions help them access clarity and presence in a deeper internal alignment. My question is, can you go deeper on the surrender part of the human that comes on your trip? Because I truly believe that this is one of the most important words you've said all call. And then can you then close out by saying where you go to surrender and what that looks like for you?
Wow, this is unexpected. Let me. I'm going to use, I think, a personal example, right? Because that's the only one I have right now. For example, when you start a trip with us, right? You're going to be picked up in the airport by your guide. That guide's going to stay with you through the entire trip, right? They're going to put you in the truck, drive you to the hotel. Once you get to the hotel, they're going to open a bunch of maps and do a briefing and co-design the trip with you. And they will be with you the whole time. And eventually, at the end of the trip, they'll take you to the airport. You check in on your airline. They'll give you the boarding pass, and then the relationship is over. But that's like the whole thing. You don't really know this in the beginning, right? So in the beginning, you're being picked up by a random person in a random car going to a random destination. So it's a little bit awkward, right? And then you do the briefing and then you're like, okay, I sort of know where I'm going. And then, okay, the trip starts, right? Next morning, you wake up super early, you picked up, and then you start going onto your first adventure. And the guide's job is very interesting because he or she will know as much about you, the traveler, as you let out before getting there and during your conversation. So there's this calibration going on all the time, right? And the level of depth and range of knowledge of the location and everything that entails each location is incredible for each guide. But they can't talk about everything. A, because there's not enough time in the day, and B, because not everybody is interested in everything, right? So they'll start talking about, I don't know, wildlife, And depending on how you react, they'll go deeper or not. And then eventually they'll start talking about geology or geography or history or this or that. But the beginning of that exchange is awkward, right? If you're not expecting that, it's like, why are they talking about this? Maybe this guy talks too much or too little. And then eventually something personal comes up. Um, so the beginning is kind of awkward. Eventually, you surrender to the experience, like you ease into it. And at some point during the trip, you're exchanging WhatsApp numbers, you're exchanging your Instagram accounts, you're telling everything about your personal life, and you're hearing about their personal lives. And by the time you check out, you get your boarding pass, like you give that guy a hug, like he or she's your best friend, and you literally miss them. And some people stay in touch forever, and some people come back and want the same exact guy. And it's a really interesting dynamic, right? And that only happens if you let go, right? If you let go of the ropes of control, if you let go of the ropes of expectations, if you let go of the rope of comparison. So surrendering for me is that, right? All those constraints that the world told us that we need to be better, faster, cheaper, this, whatever, right? You just let go. You're just present. You're in the moment. You're living the experience you wanted to live. You're with someone that is there to help you genuinely, who likes doing it. They love doing what they do, right? And they're there for you. And you let go, and you embark on that ride. And to close your question, right? When do I surrender? Well, I've been trying to surrender more and more in many things, right? I've learned that forcing things into existence are is not the best way of going about things, and the universe works differently for each one of us. This doesn't mean lay back and wait for the universe to do its thing. That's not it. And I think my favorite sport, surfing, is when I really tune out from the noise. I can connect with nature, connect with myself. And same thing, right? I think well, at least was a pretty good surfer at one point in my life. And every time I tried to force it, it didn't work, right? Every time I was pursuing a goal, it didn't work, right? When I was pursuing mastery, right? When I was pursuing being better for me, because I really love the sport and I really love being in the ocean, that's when, flow happened. That's when magic happened. And for you to get to that position, you need to surrender, right? You need to surrender to that you're doing. So that's how I connect both things.
Wow. Where's your favorite surf break?
Uh, well, it's usually the Mentawai Islands in Indonesia. I just came back from there. There's a play called Relais Châteaux, which is, I think, my favorite. Here in Santa Barbara, California, where I live, it's Rincon. And so, yeah, I have a special connection to those places.
Thank you for going there. It's an interesting topic, surrender. But I truly believe that the ability to surrender is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. And doing that ultimately sets us up for doing whatever we want to do in this world. But surrender comes before power. Surrender creates clarity. Surrender creates connection. And from those places, we can then build together for a better tomorrow. And so I love that you have a practice for that. I don't know how many of our listeners have ever surfed and gotten knocked down by a wave and just had to completely surrender to being underwater for 5 minutes. But it's a pretty humbling yet comforting, amazing, amazing alive feeling. I know we're right at time. I want to honor time. My gosh, golly, if your wife Chris was on this podcast right here, right now, what would you say to her in gratitude?
I love you more than anything. Thank you for being the best partner I could ever think of. Thank you for the family that you helped me create. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you for putting up with me. And I hope I can be as good of a partner to you as you are for me.
Chris, thanks for everything you do. Nick, any last words in closing?
Thank you for the opportunity. This is very different. It required a great level of vulnerability. So anyway, I really appreciate it. This is really, really special. And I hope we get to serve together.
Oh, let's go. Watch out, world. Nick, thank you for coming on. I feel our connection, and I'm so glad to meet yet another person who believes in the power of surrender, of helping people become unreachable, to invest in wonderful experiences that make them realize they're not the biggest people in the world. They don't need to carry everything on their shoulders. It's all right to disconnect in order to connect and just be present with the world. And you do that in nature, and you do that through some of the most amazing experiences you'll ever be on in your life, and that's what Awasi provides to so many people each and every day. So folks that are listening, go check out Awasi. Tremendous experiences. Follow everything. Follow Nick online. He makes great posts on LinkedIn. He shares his gifts and words with the world. Folks, I hope you got something out of this. I hope you find that thing in your life you can surrender to. That thing that brings you into the present, even for 30 minutes a day. A thing that's bigger than you, that provides a sense of awe, a sense of wonder, a sense of curiosity that reminds you tomorrow can be better than yesterday, and you have a role to play in it. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you're having a phenomenal day on Earth. Remember, folks, it's your world. Go explore, and we'll see you next episode.